another podcast day. Welcome to the N word for nerd. Let's get to it. Top 5. Here we go. Jaren, what we're doing today?
Today we're doing the top 5 cartoons from the 90s. And this
Awesome.
is near and dear to my heart.
Let's get your top 5. Let's get your first 5. Your first number 5. Let's go.
All right. So, in no particular order, we're to start with my boys Ren and Stimpy. Some great animation, gross out humor. I was the perfect age for it. I was literally the target demographic for this. Phenomenal, weirdly age inappropriate stuff throughout, and just absolutely fantastic.
Oh, it's so gross. I remember watching that after Are You Afraid of the Dark because it was somehow worse for kids after Are You Afraid of the Dark on Snick. And I had a friend who loved Ren and Stimpy, but I was like, this stuff is gross. This is the weirdest show. Every Saturday night, I was still sitting there watching that.
They were going to teach my grandma how to suck eggs.
And there's the log. Log is big, it's heavy, it's wood.
Yeah.
My number.
Okay. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Fourth of this.
Back and forth.
Dragon Ball Z would be my number 5.
That is in my honorable mentions.
Look, for me, Dragon Ball Z is one of those cartoons. I mean, it's not very good animated wise. It's not very good story wise, but it is a cultural phenomenon. Nowadays, everybody watches anime, and that's because Dragon Ball Z came on in the 90s. You know, you got dudes who grew up in the hood who named their kids Goku and Vegeta because of how badass Dragon Ball Z was. So, number 5 is Dragon Ball Z.
All right, going up this list. Now this is going to out me a little bit in a weird way. If
we already know you're old.
Yeah. If you feel like we need to talk, this is a very different thing. Feel like we need to talk about this after the fact. This cartoon, I'm pretty sure, had my first crush in it. So, and it's a weird one because it's Chippendale Rescue Rangers.
Oh man,
I'm a sucker for a girl in a jumpsuit with a big wrench and goggles. Apparently,
you're talking about Gadget, man. Oh yeah.
Gadget. Yes.
When I was 5, I had some improper feelings about her as well.
I can't explain it. But yeah, Chippendale Rescue Rangers it stuck with me. It was an after school thing for me. So it was, it was there every week and it was awesome.
Let's talk about like the Disney cartoons of those early 90s, like Tailspin, Chippendale, Ducktales. Like, man, I just don't understand what kind of drugs they were doing to think of these like shows. Like, hey, we should do something with Chippendale. What can we do? We should make them detectives, but they're still like tiny. Okay, let's run with it. How about Tails? How about Jungle Book?
Yeah,
he should be like a 30s pirate or pilot, and we'll give him a kid that he'll hang out the side of his airplane. He'll be fine.
He'll fly. Yeah. He'll sky surf, which is like the coolest thing since hoverboarding.
They literally let a child hang outside of an airplane because he had a board.
It was cool.
My number 4 is going to be the Animaniacs.
Yeah, phenomenal.
That was like the first time, I guess, that Warner Brothers brought back the silliness from the early Looney Tunes in brand new characters. So, and when you're talking about pop culture references that I did not understand as a child, yet I'm sitting there laughing at them, they were a mile a minute on Animaniacs with like everything that has happened between like 1965 and that day. They put it in the show, and me as a child going, I guess that's a Humphrey Bogart reference. I don't fucking know.
Yes, a lot of Clinton humor.
Yeah. Lots of sexual innuendo.
Lots. Yeah. My poor Irish mother. She was convinced that I was learning to be a smartass from Bart Simpson, but in reality, I learned all my sarcasm from the Animaniacs. I imagine. Yeah.
It was Yakko. He was very sarcastic.
Great.
And speaking of weirdly sexual characters that as a child I was oddly attracted to, Minerva Mink on the Animaniacs.
Really?
I'm
Okay.
glad I'm not a furry to this day, which is
Oh yeah.
good, but I can understand why people are furries right now because of that character.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah. Also, not a furry, but again, Gadget was she was up there, man.
What's your next one, Jaron?
All right, going into number three. All right, sticking with. It's funny. I have a sneaking suspicion our one and twos are going to be very similar. But number three,
Probably.
sticking with the Disney afternoon. My second favorite caped crusader, Darkwing Duck. Um, he was everything I wanted in a superhero back then in those cartoons. Launchpad was around, and he was familiar. It joined a universe. It was like beta MCU type level universe joining with those guys. And
Actually, Darkwing Duck took place in a different universe than DuckTales.
you say that.
That's
I
what
don't
the
know.
creator said. That's what the creator said. They had nothing to do with each other. They just had the same character.
I like that in the new Ducktales that Saint Canard is in the universe. It's the next city over, and they always talk about vacationing where Tailspin happened. I can't think of the island at the moment, but it was like
Cape
Saint Lucia,
Suzette.
Cape Suzette. That's right. Yes, 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 yes. So Darkwing Duck. I remember dragging my parents to Pizza Hut of all places because Pizza Hut had some cool Darkwing Duck like kids meal things and made them endure sitting inside of a Pizza Hut in the 90s so that I could get a gas gun replica that I wanted so desperately. So
I
yeah,
mean, Pizza Hut had so many promotions to make our parents to drag our parents to that I'm surprised that they are not as doing as well as they are today. I mean, like Pizza Huts are closing all over. I mean, like I that used to be the place to go. Like especially with Book It. I read 7 books this month, so I can go get me a personal pan pizza that costs
yes,
$8.99 or whatever.
yes, absolutely, man. I remember that. I read books like a champ for that shit because
Never read a
nothing.
book again. Only did it for pizza.
No, no, I read all the time. But you know what? That may have been they may have been responsible for that jump start. A little tip
Well,
of the hat.
it worked on one person.
Yeah, it worked on one. Remember when pizza parties were like the literally greatest thing you could be given by an entity, be it like
Yeah.
a scout or a school or anything like that. They're like pizza party. It was like I lost my mind. It melted. I was like, oh my god, my parents make me eat healthy crap all the time. We couldn't have sugar cereal. You know what my parents had in the house? Kicks. That
Ugh,
was that as sweet as we could get.
that's
Lucky
child
Charms,
abuse.
fuck off with that. Fruity
That's
Pebbles,
literal child abuse. You
yeah.
should go call DFAX on your parents and get like, you know, 15 years of reparations or whatever.
Every time, every
Making
time I
you eat
spent the night at
kicks.
other friends' houses, I like had like 6 bowls of whatever they had because it was always better than what I had. And my parents always wonder why I didn't invite anybody over. I was like, because you fucking don't know how to cook good food. No,
You know how to treat children.
no.
Well, my number three is
All right,
going to, I'm also sticking with the Disney afternoon was Gargoyles. This is
gargoyles.
this show introduced me to the idea of there being lore in a show. Like it was based on William Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream, and it had all sorts of weird backstory lore to it that they brought into it for a kids cartoon. You
Right.
know, you know what kids love? 14th century poets. That's what they love.
Yes. My second favorite thing that Riker ever did, Jonathan Frakes.
Yeah. And also introduced me to one of the most badass voice actors, also actors in the world, Mr. Keith David. Dude can like, he can voice act a paper bag, and I'd be like, I'm here for it for this very deep, very commanding voice that just
Yeah.
it's him whenever he shows up as a character, that's him.
Clancy
So
Brown, Keith David. As soon as they're
Keith
sold.
David.
Yeah, I'm just saying, no, both of them. As soon as I hear
Oh,
them,
you're
I'm like,
good.
yes. I'm like, game
Yes.
on.
Both
Yeah.
of them are both very, 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 very distinctive voices
Yes.
and do a lot of voice work. But like Gargoyles was like one of those shows that I was there every week because it was a continuing storyline. It was episodic, but it was also serialized in some point. So you had to watch the whole entire series. So it was one of the best cartoons of all time. highly underrated. I mean, I guess people rate it highly.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I think it's remembered fondly. All right, now here's the thing: are number one and number two going to be the same? And if they are we going to put them in different order? Because that's where I'm curious. I'm pretty
it
sure they're probably the same.
it depends on what you say number one and number two are.
I know.
Okay, okay. All right. Here's what we're gonna do. Okay, we're gonna do our number two. We'll say it
Mhm.
at the same time. We'll go one, two, three, and we'll say it at the same time. All right.
Okay, all right.
Okay. One, two, three. X Men.
X Men. Yes. Which means I don't want to skip over. We'll come back to X Men. Which
We'll come
means
back to number one, but
well, no, I would say
let's go. All right, go to
yeah.
number one.
Because number one is Batman the Animated Series.
Yep.
All
We
right,
got the
good.
same,
Okay.
same,
Yeah.
same two,
All right,
same
all
two.
right. All right. So going back to X Men, holy shit, X Men. First of all, I whoever told them to shade it like a comic book, but every frame of animation, man, somebody was on some shit.
They
I
were
was like,
doing a lot of drugs back in the early '90s, but
it's like a pitch meeting where the guy, the producer guy, he's like, I don't think you understand how much this is going to cost. And he's like, I don't care. You know, Oof.
also the one of the coolest things about X Men the show, even though I back then I could barely read anyway, so I didn't read a lot of comic books. But once you go back and read like the classic Dark Phoenix storylines or any of the other storylines or Days of Future Past, which I also did in the show, like it was almost like 100% 1-to-1 for all these storylines. Like,
Yeah.
and once again, one of these very first cartoon shows that was serialized. Like it went from the very first episode had a dude die in it.
Yeah, which they created for the show to die, but
Yeah.
still.
And you had Wolverine. This is probably the beginning of the media of the world's love affair with Wolverine, like who
Yeah,
wasn't really much of a character before this show. Like so much good stuff because
yeah,
they ran with the new all new X Men, which you had Wolverine, you had Nightcrawler, you had Jubilee, you
Storm,
still had uh you know Cyclops and Jean Grey, but you didn't have the traditional like Iceman. I mean, Angel didn't show up until he was Archangel.
right?
So you didn't really have like the original team, but you had like in my mind the best team come
And
out.
Beast was already Harry.
Yeah,
Uh, Storm was doing her thing. Basically, gold team leader, but they weren't broken up into blue and gold yet.
yeah.
Uh, fuck yeah,
Even though
yeah. Okay,
Jubilee was the worst part, the worst powers.
I mean
Like, why
she's
y'all bring her places? Like, I can shoot fireworks.
yep. She's the Dazzler of the '90s.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, Dazzler is actually quite a strong mutant. She can turn sound into light waves, and she can mess you up. And
all
then
right.
Jean Grey, I mean Jubilee also gets a lot better too. And
Yeah, again, it comes down to the writer. Let's be
yeah,
real. They wanted to draw a hip girl from the disco era in their X-Men books, so they were like Dazzler, and then somebody's like, she's lame. We should round her out.
or we can just make a lamer character, but call her Jubilee.
But she's Asian American.
Yeah,
Inclusion.
though I never saw that in the cartoon. I didn't know that until like I was an adult that she was half Asian.
Jubilation Lee? Really?
I mean, anybody can have the last name of Lee.
I'm maybe. I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
I have an affinity, so it is what it is. As far as
Well,
that goes, I saw that. I saw that coming.
let's go to number one,
All right,
Batman the
number one,
Animated Series.
Batman the Animated Series. You got Kevin Conroy as one of my favorite Batmans.
The
Uh,
Batman.
yeah, I mean that voice, commanding. That interesting thing they do where they were like, we're not going to make it. We're not going to make it modern. We're going to make it take place in some sort of like alternate
Timeless.
20s environment, which I thought was dope, which affected all of the design, including the Batmobile. Not my favorite Batmobile, but they really did a good job at adhering to the world that they had created with that Batmobile. So I like that. I'm a big fan. I'm a big gadget guy. I don't know if we've had this conversation. One of the reasons I think I fell in love with Ghostbusters when I was like 5 years old was because of the Ecto One. Back to the Future, it was all about that DeLorean. I'm a gadget and a car guy. I love them when they're used to great effect in movies. And so whenever a new Batman happens, people will flock and be like, "Who's the Batman? And what villains are they going to cast?" I'm like, "What is the Batmobile going to look like?"
What's the Batmobile look
That's
like?
like my first number one on the list. I'm like, "Let's see this Batmobile."
What gadgets does he have on its
Yes,
belt? What's going on? Who cares about the man behind the cowl? I want to see
yeah.
what he's working with.
Just once in a movie, well, actually, I think they did it in the Nolan trilogy, but give him a device that isn't just a solution for the thing right there, and then we never see it again.
Right in and
Make
there.
him
That's the
use
only
the device
solution.
in two different ways, and then I'm like, yes, sell me on it.
Dude, Batman the Animated Series is one of the most groundbreaking shows of all time. The way they not only are their character designs are great, not only were the way they were animating things were great, they were painting their backgrounds on
Yes,
black paper just to get that moody, dark atmosphere. Like, I mean, no one has done that in a TV show before. They certainly haven't done it since.
no,
They changed characters to match that world. Like before, Batman the Animated Series, like Mr. Freeze was just a joke character, and they made him a serious threat that with a
yeah,
really tragic backstory. It introduced Harley Quinn, which was probably one of the most famous Batman characters of all time. I
now,
mean, it was a show that had pretty much everything you want in a cartoon show: action, adventure, but also like heart and storytelling and all that other good stuff. And also, it was the first time that Kevin Conroy was the first person to make Batman have two different voices for Batman and Bruce Wayne. You can definitely tell
oh
there's a
yeah.
difference
So,
between Batman and Bruce Wayne.
well, hold on.
Batman is
Let
dark and brooding. He talks really
how
deep.
many how many Batmans did we have before animated series? We had obviously Adam West, and that was
Adam
just
West, and then you had a
him,
whole
him, him.
bunch in the 30s and 40s, the radio plays and stuff like that. And then you
Did
also had Michael Keaton.
series? Okay, yeah, I would say, did animated series predate Keaton?
Yeah,
I
the
guess.
animated
I guess.
series came after Michael Keaton.
Yeah,
Now, Michael Keaton talked
Keaton was it.
pretty much the same way. He didn't really switch up his voice very much in the end
Yeah.
as between Bruce Wayne and Batman. Um, but yeah,
Question
it's
for
go ahead.
you in particular: what do you think is the best screen voice changing like? How do you who's done voice changing the best for Batman in your opinion?
Kevin Conroy.
Kevin Costner. Okay, straight up, like
but
of all the Batman.
but honorable mention would be Ben Affleck because he has the modified voice, which like I don't understand like why that wasn't a thing beforehand.
Yeah,
Like
that's what I was gonna get to.
because as much as I love the Nolan films,
Yeah,
like he should not have spoken as Batman that entire film. It sounded ridiculous.
yeah.
And the other films, they were just basically just talking as themselves. They weren't really putting on a voice. They were just like, for example, in Batman and Robin, George Clooney was just George Clooney, both in and out of the bat suit. I'm Batman, and I'm like
Yeah,
I'm also Bruce Wayne. And same thing with Val Kilmer. He was both the same, both in and out of the bat suit. So there wasn't
yeah,
really much of a change there. So
yeah.
yeah, Kevin Conroy is the quintessential bat voice. Mark Hamill, quintessential Joker.
Oh,
Didn't even
best
mention that.
my favorite thing Mark Hamill has ever done, ever,
I
is the
wouldn't say
Joker.
ever, but it's
Ever,
up there.
ever. It
It's up there.
hits
I'm a
Star
Star
Wars in
Wars
its
fan, so I
teeth.
can't say
It's
ever.
Star Wars in its teeth. He's better as the Joker.
But yeah, he is great as a Joker. I remember seeing like a cast photo of the voice actors of Batman anime series, and that's really like the first major job, I guess, that um, Mark Hamill had after Star Wars.
Post
He didn't really do
war.
a lot of
Yeah.
of work after Star Wars. And in this cast photo, everybody's like all sitting there professional and looking nice. And there's Mark Hamill beaming like, "I got a job." Good on you, because I mean, after that, he's done so much great work.
Oh
But
yeah.
like that was the first time that he just nailed it in the head. So applaud to you, Mark Hamill, even though Star Wars is still one of the best things you've ever
Second favorite Mark Hamill thing, definitely cock knocker. Uh,
done. From James
Jane Silent Bob Strike. Star Wars is somewhere in like the third or fourth range. I don't know.
Well, Thanks everybody for joining us. We are the Nerd In Word for Nerd podcast. Obviously, our fearless leader, it's down to them.
Yeah,
Jason is not here today. He is in Florida, stuck with bad Wi-Fi, so he cannot be here today. So you are left with me,
and me.
the Duke of Nerds. I'm about to get to you, Jaron. Hold on. Thank you for joining us, and as always, we have our token guy, Jaron. How's it going, Jaron?
Hey, it's me. I'm a token guy. I wanted to get out in front of that and just talk about me for a second because
So thank you for joining us. Please, if you like the stuff that we're doing, like, subscribe. We are in all the places that you can find stuff like this, except at your local grocery store. I don't think we're there yet, but we will be one day. So, Jaron, let's go into our next segment. Let's get into geek news. There's
geek
not really
news.
a lot of news this week, but there's one major announcement that happened. That is Jupiter's Legacy getting canceled. How do you
Yes.
feel about that?
So I mean, as far as it goes, uh, it's we live in an era now where things aren't gonna stay like that. I know Josh Jamel posted a hilarious thing on his Instagram where he was like, when you get like I don't he said something about like getting a like your summer bod together and then you get left at the altar or something like that. And he's like, how about you, Hulu? And then and that was pretty funny. But yeah, we live in an era now where when things get canceled on one network, if there's a another content provider that has a slot to fill, they will scoop up a proven production like that. So, I mean, the idea of Hulu or Amazon Prime or any of those people grabbing that, yeah, that I don't think it's dead yet until it hasn't been there for a year, then it'll be dead. Because then some of those people are very talented; they'll be on to different things, so you won't be getting the band back together, just like Firefly. But
Don't too soon, man. Too soon.
season 2, baby. But I told all my friends in college, I was like, if I win the lottery, I'm gonna fund Firefly 2. I'm getting the whole band back together, and I'm
You
just
can't get
gonna
the whole band back together.
not
Robert
anymore.
Glass is dead.
Yeah, not anymore. But in college, in 2000, 2006, 7, 8, 9, yeah, it would have been fine. And the plan was just to retain the, and this is how old this is, the DVD distribution rights, the Blu-ray distribution right. I was like, if I keep those rights to myself, but I fund the whole thing, I will make my money back tenfold, and I will give something beautiful to the world. So
Yeah, but your only problem is you would have to have worked with Joss Whedon, and he probably would have treated you poorly.
I'm yeah.
Yeah, the fact that Jupiter Legacy got canceled isn't like a big surprise, and nor is it a big surprise that if it gets picked up somewhere else. I
Yeah.
do know that they already have greenlight a spinoff from that for Netflix, which
Netflix.
is yeah, which is batshit insane. But they also like Netflix has had to deal with Mark Miller, who is one of the creators of Jupiter Legacy, to pretty much bring a lot of his comic book material to life. They're trying to do their own DCE. They call it like the Millerverse or whatever.
Okay.
So, or I think his name is Millar. Don't quote me on that.
I've always called him Mark
but
Miller. Yeah.
yeah, so they're already doing like so many other shows with him as a executive producer using his content. It's kind of silly they canceled it so quickly, but it's not like you're not going to get more content from this guy at all. So it's not
Yeah.
that big of a deal. I didn't really. I mean, I watched the show. I would have probably watched the second season too,
Oh yeah.
but it wasn't like it's something that was
I'm not.
profoundly important to my life.
Yeah, yeah. Every time I think about not being able to continue in that world, what I keep going back to is that fight they had on that interior grassy knoll that was clearly just AstroTurf,
That
and
soundstage in
yeah,
Burbank.
and Burbank, and the close-ups on the big bad, and then you could tell the makeup was really tragic.
Yeah,
I was like, they did not prepare this for the 4K generation. So yeah, no, it's again, I was all in for how they got their powers. That storyline,
awesome.
yes, sign me up. I was there. Everything else was like,
They probably should have just done that as the first season, and they probably would have got a second
they
season
would
out
have
of
got that second season,
it. And then
they
they
would
could have
have got
messed it
that
up
third.
after that. So the only other bit of news I got for you guys today is that this week we have Loki that's coming up this week.
Yes.
Darren, how do you feel about Loki? You feeling that this is going to be another great show, or are you feeling that Marvel's going to be running on fumes pretty soon?
So, how best put this? All right. I thought that WandaVision was going to be bad. Like I thought, I everything I saw from the press releases and everything, I was like, "Uh," and then I watched it and it was great. So I think Loki looks like it's going to be good, and not to jinx it, but if the bad to me ended up being great, then the good to me will probably end up being phenomenal. I mean, I've already heard early reviews that Hiddleston is just firing on all cylinders, and that Owen Wilson is a good kind of neutral time cop that he's able to play off of really well. So I think that's going to be good. Things from the trailers look great. The big security guard taking his knives away. Just like what? Like no. I'm
I
stoked.
can't pronounce the actress's name, but I love her and things that she was in Lovecraft Country. She was also
Oh, was she? She
yeah,
was the
she's Ruby.
holy shit.
Yeah,
I didn't recognize her.
yeah, because to us, all us people look alike, Jaron. I'm sorry. It was there. It was hanging.
It was there.
It was,
It was
and I just had to go. I
low
just had
hanging
to.
fruit. Low hanging fruit.
I'm
Low.
sorry, Sharon. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to con you like that.
Oh
But yeah,
man.
she is the she was in Love Country. She's in a whole bunch of other stuff that is really good as well.
Half
Don't
that
get me.
show she was a white chick, so I'm just saying.
Yeah, she was a wear white chick.
Yeah. Where white chick? Oh my god, I've never heard that shit. Yes.
Yeah,
That show was phenomenal, by the way. Uh, all
I
the way.
agree. I agree with you. I feel like this is going to be a pretty good show. I feel like Tom Hiddleston, even if if the writers are crap and the direction is terrible, I feel like Tom Hiddleston is kind of the kind of charm that people like, that he can probably carry it on his own without really having amazing staff behind him. Uh, as long as Owen Wilson goes, wow, it's going to be it's going to be a good show. Yeah.
Yes.
He's gonna do it. It's his thing. He's gonna do it, or he's
Gonna happen. Yeah.
so. I feel like it's gonna be great. So here's hoping that Loki is the next big thing from Marvel. If
Another,
not, I mean,
another thing. Yeah.
go ahead.
I want to point out Hiddleston. He gets to do, I think, if I was ever to ever do acting, which I will not because I'm not good at it, but that would be the role that I'd want to play. Is the in this scenario, Hiddleston is the he's a bad guy. Like he's a straight up bad guy. We're not talking about newly
Reformed Loki.
yeah, Loki or whatever. We're talking about Loki from back in the day, right? So Loki is he's still a bad guy. So he gets to play a bad guy, but facing a bigger, quote unquote, bad organization, which might be good. I hope the TVA shows up in Marvel from here on in. I want them dropping in on the fucking regular. I think that's a great idea. Just like time cops. I love the idea of time cops.
I love the idea of John Claude Van Damme doing splits for no damn reason.
sorry. Temporal peace officers.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think yeah, I just like talk about a great role to play. I get to be, or he gets to be like a bad guy, but also there's an opposing force that's kind of overshadowing him. So he gets to be bad against another. Like he doesn't have to press up against good guys, ish. I guess I don't. They could turn out to be great guys. I don't think they will, but I guess we'll see.
Yes, we'll certainly see. Well, that's our news for the day. If you guys have any more news, or if you want us to cover anything, please let us know. We are here for you. We serve the people. Let's go on to another topic. We were discussing how in Jupiter's Legacy, how the effects were pretty bad. How we were able to notice that, especially in that fight scene with what was I don't even remember the character's name, but it looked like it was taking place on on a soundstage with a pretty terrible green screen. Let's talk about, and me and Jen are going to nerd out a little bit over this. Talk about something that it's this person has been doing it for quite a while, but he just released a few shorts on YouTube The man's name is Ian Hubert, and he's doing Dynamo Dream. And these are a series of shorts where he has done a lot of the compositing, a lot of the 3D animation, a lot of pretty much everything himself. It's taken him over a period of years to do this. He has a series of tutorials because he did this and he made tutorials about it while he's doing this. How do you feel about it as a fellow graphic artist? How do you feel about this?
Okay, so you know what I love about this guy, Ian Hubert? Ian Hubert's the guy we're talking about, Dynamo Dream. Check it out on YouTube anytime you get a chance. If this looks kind of cool to you, if you've ever been a fan of steampunk or anything like that. But what he did an interview with these guys that we both like, Corridor Digital,
Gordo
uh,
Digital, yes.
who are VFX artists in their own right. And he mentioned that as he was going along, um, making the tutorials on what he was doing helped keep him going. If you were an artist like us, then you felt the fatigue of having this amazing idea in your mind and then it taking more than 3 or 4 months to realize. And sometimes you switch directions and go after the new shiny thing instead of finishing what you started. And he said specifically for him, doing these tutorials and kind of sharing how he was approaching things and how he was overcoming stuff helped keep him motivated on the same track and moving forward, because even though he wasn't finished with the project in a reasonable amount of time, because again he was working alone, and 3 years is difficult.
A long ass time.
A long time. A long time. Remember what you were doing 3 years ago? That's 2018.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't do this 3 years ago. I'll tell you that. My 3 years has nothing to show for
Yeah.
it.
But I love that idea of making, because that gives you the little bit of release, the little bit of dopamine that the artist needs, because you feel like you've completed something, even if it's just showing other people how you did your work. Now let's scrap all that. Let's talk about it. So Blender's a fun software. It's free.
Completely
Um,
free.
huh?
Completely free.
Completely free.
Yeah. You don't need no money for it.
Yeah. It's I haven't messed with it as much. I went to college and they introduced me to Maya and 3ds Max when I needed a shortcut, and I kind of stuck with those. Although lately I've been using ZBrush a lot more, just for sculpting purposes. But Blender, his combination of using incredibly photorealistic pictures, high resolution pictures, to then texture all of his backgrounds and stuff in this world that he created it's just man, it's a phenomenal accomplishment. And there's multiple episodes up now.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like one of the coolest things that really got me was, I picked up Blender about earlier this year because I've been feeling the itch to get back into doing some 3D modeling and 3D animation. And this guy, the reason he's getting such the photoreal look to his stuff is he takes the high res photos and he builds the models from them. The traditional way of building a model is you'll use that photo as reference, but you won't use it as the texture. You'll probably use something else as the texture for that model, and then you'll do the lighting and stuff. Well, he gets a lot of his lighting information from those models because he's using the photo itself to build the model from and as its texture. And it's like, why did I not think of that back when I was in school? Like, he's getting these models done really quickly and he's getting them to fit in their scenes so smoothly because he's kind of combining steps in very novel ways. He is using just a simple setup in his house and using the information from the camera that he's using to also cast. He's creating objects from the actual video that he's taking to cast light onto the digital objects that he's making. So it's a very novel idea to make this process so seamless, and it looks phenomenal. And it's unreasonable why people who are professionals in the field who are doing these professional shows can't get the same level of fidelity from their shows when this guy by himself with his laptop and his girlfriend are creating these very, very lovely pieces. Yeah, there's some places where you're like, okay, that's a
Mhm.
green screen,
Yeah.
but it's for the most part is almost 100% seamless to me as a person who has been training these things, and it is so inspiring to see that someone can do it over a period of years. That was my goal, but then I had to feed myself, so we had to, do something else. You can't. Some of us can't sit in front of our computers for 3 years and hope,
Be
we.
starving artists. Yeah.
Yeah, we got kids now, so we can't do that. So, but still, the fact that he did it is very inspirational to me. I'm sure if you go online and watch these tutorials, watch these videos, hopefully it will inspire you. Even if you're not a digital artist, you know, inspire you to write poetry, inspire you to paint pictures, inspire you to do something creative, because it's not as hard as people make it out to be. It is really it. You do need skill and technique, but you got to start somewhere. You got to start with a brushstroke, and this guy can show you how to start with those brushstrokes, and then after a while, you can create something pretty great as long as you stick to it. Stick to it. I
Also,
love this stuff.
if you're just unlike me and are good at acting, hopefully looking at this might inspire you to reach out to those VFX artist friends of yours and be like, let's collaborate on something. Because
Yeah,
any good VFX artist still needs a story and an actor, because otherwise there's no point. So
yeah. You can't star in everything yourself, and it's
yeah.
weird if you do.
He
So
had a living girlfriend that was his actress, and it worked out exceptionally well. So
yeah, it is beautiful. It is amazing. I love seeing stuff like this. So please check it out. It's Dynamo Dream, I believe I'm
Dynamo
saying
Dream.
it correct. So
Yep.
look it up on YouTube. It is amazing. All right, let's move on to something a little bit more near and dear. Well, I mean, everything's pretty much near and dear to our heart. So Ducktales, the final season, third and final season, has come out. Um, let's talk about it. Like Ducktales is a reboot of the original Ducktales from the 80s and 90s. I believe it started in '89 and came over to the 90s. Very popular show, as we talked about earlier. It's one of those shows where Disney was like, "Hey, let's take some characters, throw them together, and make a TV show about it." Like, who thought that Scrooge McDuck should be swimming in money? It's great. They came out with a reboot of it, and it is, in my opinion, as good, if not better, than the original show.
I mean, I don't
Like,
want to be futurist, but it's superior, at least as far as I'm concerned.
yeah, I mean, it's got top tier voice talent. Voice talent. It's got David Tennant, if you don't know, from Doctor Who and the Harry Potter movies and all sorts of different stuff. As Scrooge McDuck, he's actually Scottish, so he can make a
Yeah.
very convincing Scottish accent. It's got Danny Pudi from he's
Community.
famous from Community. Um, Bobby Monahan, who's from SNL.
Mhm.
Ben Schwartz
Sonic.
from yeah.
Sonic the
It's got
Hedgehog.
yeah, he's Sonic the Hedgehog. He's from Parks and Rec as well. So it's got a top tier voice cast. The animation of it, like Disney Studios, has stepped up their game in their TV department when it comes to their old properties. A lot of their stuff is like I've been watching a lot of Mickey Mouse Clubhouse a lot, but that's pretty terrible. But in this, it's very very good. So
You can
Jared, you
tell.
saw
Oh, sorry.
season 3. Go ahead and tell us what you think about this.
Well, just from like a 1,000 mile view too, you can tell that the story writers and the people behind it had a lot of love for the original subject
Yes.
matter. They took Gone is the blue coat from Scrooge's '90s outings, and they went all the way back to the like paper comic books like that you get in a newspaper or on a comic book stand, and they gave him back his old red coat with the black stuff. There's references to older Disney properties all over the place, and in the later portion of, or actually no, maybe in the early portion of this season, at some point they are, I think, magics them away to almost another dimension, and it is the original cartoon.
Oh wow.
And when the kids come back, they're if the original Huey, Dewey, and Louie all had like goofy things they would say, like and I can't think of it right now, but they were like catchphrase type things.
Yes.
And they come back and the modern actors are like, what does that even mean? You know, like, um, uh, yeah, no, they handle like I've always loved Gizmo Duck. They gave Gizmo Duck his updated version in this series is phenomenal. They linked and looped in Darkwing in a very, very satisfying and realistic way. Um, and Tailspin. I mean, Saint Canard Saint Canard's in there, and
Cape Suzette.
Cape Suzette is also there, and Don Canard. We get the bad guy from Tailspin. He shows up in this series, uh, piloting stuff and being kind of a foil to Launchpad, which I think is hilarious because those two never showed up side by side in anything
It would
prior
have
to that.
taken place in different timelines, I would imagine. Tailspin seemed like it was like 1930s, whereas definitely DuckTales was like somewhat recently.
Yeah,
It felt, in my opinion, felt like me because they were flying these older planes around. They
versus
had
the cars.
biplanes with the sky pirates.
See, I always thought it was more of like current America versus like Cuba. Like their cars looked older uh, on the island, and the planes were older. I thought it was just like kind of
So they were just in a poor area of.
yeah, absolutely. I thought it was that because the buildings all looked modern enough.
They all did look
Shere
modern because
Khan had his big skyscraper.
yeah,
And
he was in this
yeah,
big
yeah,
old skyscraper.
right.
Still insane how they thought of that show. I just don't
Oh,
understand what
yeah.
sort of acid they were doing to come up with
Like,
that.
all right, so the Jungle Book, right? But hear me out. Planes.
Blue, who was all about just laying back and relaxing. Okay, he owns his own plane cargo business, right? He's
Or
very
he's trying
stressed out
to,
because he hasn't paid his bills.
yeah.
Going back to DuckTales, like the things that I like about the show, it versus the original iteration is Huey and Dewey and Louie have different personalities.
Yes.
Webigail isn't just a girl; she has her own personalities. They did a very good job like making each character different from the next character. And as I said, the voice acting on the show is just top notch, just tier one. Um, One of the coolest things that is they actually introduced the boys the boys' mother. Like for the longest time in Disney lore, they never really had a mom. It was Uncle Donald and Uncle Scrooge, but they never. There was even once a picture of the Duck family tree, and
Yeah.
for their mom, it was a question mark because no one knew, and they finally actually introduced her into the show,
Delta.
which is really really cool, and
Yeah.
have her own little backstory and have their own like uh backstory with Scrooge McDuck because you never really got that from the first show that anything happened prior to the tales that were happening that we're watching. So that was
Right.
really cool. And also, I love a good serialized TV show. I love things going on from progression from the next day to the next. This had with their search for their mother, it had a storyline for that. It has a storyline for like them finding the lost book of this great explorer, and they're going around the world, trying to find these artifacts and stuff like that. So
Atticus.
it's really, really good to see, and it's really, really cool to watch. This kids cartoon
Yeah.
that I watched as a kid, and then my kid watches, and we can both get enjoyment out of it.
Right.
It's really, really awesome.
Also, they're one-offs, and there were a couple one-offs. They were fantastic. There was a one-off where they go back to Scotland and play golf, and these little water pony like
Kelpies.
spirit kelpies. They're constantly trying to drown them the entire time. It is the funniest thing I've ever seen because they're so jovial and happy. They're like, come on, just trying to trick them into coming into the water with them so they can drown them. It's like,
That's what Kelpies do, man.
it's hilarious. They approached the writing of the show with a sharp wit and a deft swoop of the writer's pen. I guess I don't know. You again a lot of references to the original stuff. So if you're old like me, you're like, oh yeah, and even the genie shows up
Oh
from
yeah,
the movie.
that was so great because
The
they were
movie.
like, "How long you been in here?" She's like, "Since 1991." That's when the movie came out. I was like, "Oh my god, that's hilarious!"
Yeah, I paused it when that genie showed up. As soon as he said Shablooey, I was like, something
That
ticked over
makes
in the old line, and I was like, DuckTales the movie trailer, and I watched. I was like, holy, yeah, it's fucking him. That's
yeah,
exactly.
it's the same one. It's the same one. Oh my god, I also had to pause and like when he said 1991, I was like, was
Yeah,
that the year that came out? And it was actually the year that came out. Oh my
yeah.
god, such. So, Jaron, would you recommend this show for lovers of ducks
And Tails.
and
Yes,
tails?
yes. I highly recommend this. It's 3 seasons. Don't power through it if you don't have to. Savor it. I power through it. Savor it. It's worth the journey. And unfortunately, it does have an end. The Now, Jason, you watched the first part of the last season. I've
Yes.
watched the last part of the last season. There is a fairly good emotional wrap up to everything.
Mm.
They answer all the questions. Normally, this is a spoiler cast, but Jason hasn't seen it, so I'm not going to do it to him. But you find out Webby's parentage.
Webby has parents.
You find out her parentage, and it's you're not going to believe it. It's insane.
Okay, I can't wait to watch this then.
Yeah, there's a lot that's going on. Actually, a lot of it hinges on Webby, which is very interesting. There's clones involved.
What?
It's a whole big thing. It's a whole big thing. And yeah, you're gonna. Yeah, I mean, Fenton Crackshell as Gizmo Duck, phenomenal. Darkwing's origin in this just makes me smile every time I think about it because the way it starts is he's just an old TV show, and I'm like, oh, but then how they deftly bring in. How you got into the third season? Did
I
you get into the
started the
dark?
third season.
Oh, you didn't get to the Darkwing episode.
I watched for pretty much. I have seen half of the first season, and I went on and started the third season, and I'm going to go back and watch pretty much everything
Oh,
else.
just watching through. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because I didn't have enough time to do this in this week to watch 3 seasons of TV.
There is an incredibly interesting way that they bring in Quackerjack, the Liquidator,
Oh my god,
Megabolt into the reality where they were just television characters. Very cool shit.
awesome! Well,
Yeah.
I too would also recommend this show from the things that I've seen from the not only from the nostalgia point, but it's also just fun for the kids to watch. I think it's an excellent show. So if you are into Disney cartoons and into watching things that you watched as a kid and but in new ways, give it a look. It's going to be you're not going to be disappointed. All
Yeah.
right,
Also,
Jared.
style, way better. Way better.
Let's yeah, the animation style is way better. It's
Yeah.
more
They
they put
do.
money into it this time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jared,
Yes.
let's go into something that we both love,
Ooh.
which is Star Trek.
Yeah.
So, I don't remember when it premiered, but I think it was early last year. We have a show called Star Trek Lower Decks. Yes, it is a animated show taking place in the Star Trek universe. It is a supposed to be a comedy show. They do a lot of jokes, unlike your regular Star Trek shows where they're fairly pretty serious.
Yeah.
But Jaron, how do you feel about this? Do you like this show or do you obviously
So,
I mean I don't know why spoiler alert he bought the box set.
I absolutely love the show. It is the Orville but licensed. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
it's although the Orville's got more drama in it. It's definitely more of a TNG drama, but with comedy on the edge. This is a fairly rounded out comedy with a little bit of drama and a little bit of heart there to kind of ground everything. Um, with the amount if for every episode there is somebody that, believe it or not, there's bigger Trek fans than me and Jason, but for every episode there is somebody out there that will break down every single reference to a different Star Trek that has occurred in it, and they are vast and plentiful, and you can tell there's a lot of love. There is a lore guy that they keep on payroll, and that's from all the behind the scenes stuff. That's like, well, actually, they look like this.
Yeah.
So,
Well, Booleans actually have and Andorians are blue with two things.
mhm, mhm. The at first I didn't understand the doctor being a cat, uh,
Doctor
anthropomorphic cat.
Tana, that's her
Yeah,
name.
yeah. Turns out her race was introduced in the original TOS animated series, uh,
The
but a
Lost fourth
like,
season.
yeah, but like a sexier version. Like it was literally like a cat in like a little skirt with a tail, like hey, big eyes, all the errands, and they were like, yeah, let's do that, but make her just an embattled doctor that is just tired of everybody's shit and doesn't want to get nachos stuck in her fur. Do you know how hard it is to get nachos out of my fur? Phenomenal, phenomenal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, I also too love this show. I think it's hilarious. I love the references they make to Star Trek, even the ones that I don't get because I didn't watch the original series, but some of them I still get. Uh, the One of the things that I love are the characters. Originally, the main character Mariner, who is this very non-Star Trekish young lady who is all about getting into trouble, all about slacking off. She's not very Starfleet, and I kind of didn't like her at first because she's just really kind of getting like she likes to get in trouble and likes to like shirk orders and do things, but like she grows on you. You find out, I mean, spoiler alert, you find out that the captain of the ship, Captain Freeman, is her mother. Her father is an admiral in Starfleet, and she actually does love being in Starfleet. She just doesn't love all the responsibility that comes with it. So she still loves her job. She just doesn't love, moving up in the ranks and being, a good soldier, as it were, as opposed to Boimler, played by the dude from
Jack Wade
Jack Wade. Yeah, Jack Wade, who
from
is he's from The Boys and
yeah, the
from
boys.
Meg Ryan's Loins as well.
Huh.
Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan are his dad and mom.
Well, I
Mom
knew
and
it was Dennis Quaid was his dad. I didn't know Meg Ryan was the facilitator.
yes,
All right,
Meg Ryan is his mother.
well played, Dennis Quaid. All right, buddy.
But Boimler is like this straight, like follow the book kind of guy. But even he gets into silly situations with Mariner, and Mariner at one point's like, "I want to take you under wing because I know so much about the life and of being a Starfleet officer. I'm going to make sure you get, your promotions." And he's totally not into it. It is so great. And we rounded off with Rutherford and Tilly or Tandy is the other one.
Tindy. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't get a lot of screen time as the other two do, but they still have a lovable relationship. Rutherford is all about the ship. He's all about, and they both are like really excited about science stuff, and they get really, really like geeky about the things that happen on the ship. And Tindy even once creates a dog that is just hilarious because she has no concept of what a dog is.
She's a green alien, and yeah,
Yeah.
create a human dog based
So
on
this dog is like going around like sprouting four legs and shooting lasers out of its mouth, and it's absolutely insane.
just turning
But
into a block of solid metal and then rolling away. Yeah,
it's this one of those shows that even though it's trying to be lighthearted and fun, it still has like the ideas of Star Trek at its core. You can tell that the people who write the show, who act in the show, love Star Trek. As you said, you can tell that there's a person who's sitting there making sure the lore is 100% correct. I mean, they even like I mean, like even sometimes when they name dropping characters, you're like, it's still fun in a witty way. I love that they have at the end of one episode, they're like, they're talking about something that Boimler did in the future, and then they're studying, and then they're like, okay, enough about Boimler. Let's go back to the greatest Starfleet officer of all time, Chief O'Brien.
Miles O'Brien.
And
Yeah.
I
Which
died
yeah,
because he's
yeah.
one of my favorite characters of
Me
all
too.
time.
Me too. He's hilarious, guy. I was like, yes.
Like, so it is a phenomenal show, especially for us Trek fans. It is so well put together, which is one of the reasons why I hated the Modoc show. It's because for me, it didn't have that same sort of heart of Marvel in it. So
Yeah.
definitely, if you are a Star Trek fan, give it a watch. If you just want to know a little bit about Star Trek, it's also a good place to start as well, and you
It,
can have fun doing it.
You can
So
dip your toe in, and yeah, and you'll be surrounded by awesome, but you won't have to be. You won't feel like you're tasked with picking everything up. I do want to double back on Rutherford though. I love Rutherford, his character, because in Star Trek and most sci-fi, we as the audience have run into a lot of cyborgs, and the best thing about Rutherford is he's a brand new cyborg. He's still adapting to his cybernetic implants. He's not always on top of them, and so sometimes a lot of the funniest stuff that comes from Rutherford is just him trying to like mess with his cybernetic implants, and he'll set himself to like Spanish mode and shit and Klingon.
or combat mode.
Yeah, like the idea of being new to being a cyborg is, I don't think anything that's I can't think of anything offhand that's ever happened in sci-fi. We just always assume if you're a cyborg, you're good at what you do, and
Yes.
the idea that he's still trying to figure it out is just, they're plumbing it for comedic gold and they're nailing it every time. He's
And the
great.
fact that he's human with Vulcan cyborg implants.
Right, right in one ear.
One of my favorite like running gags of his was on I think it was the second episode where he is trying to change departments and he's going through different departments. And every single time, like he for front once he's an engineer and he's thinking that he's all worried about like telling his commanding officer that he doesn't want to be an engineer more. And the commanding officer's like, "That's great, wonderful, go explore." And then he goes to the next one, and they're like, "Oh, you're awesome at this." And he's like, "I don't want to do this either." And like, "Oh no, that's great, go somewhere else." And like every time he goes to a different place, he's met with acceptance and welcomed, and like he's really good at it, and they like him being around. But he's like, "I don't want to do this." And they're like, "Oh, that's awesome. Just do what makes you happy." And it's like it's probably the most Star Trek thing ever.
Right. Only in Starfleet would that be the case, where a
Yeah,
manager or somebody yeah, the manager of a group finds stumbles on a great asset, and then they're like, yeah, I don't know if it's for me, and they're like, oh, well, good luck, my dude, hooray.
yeah.
It's like,
Have fun finding your next thing. I hope you're good at that too. Like it is a really really well done
yeah.
like bit they do in the second episode. It's so funny and it's so well done. It's great. It's a great show.
So I don't think we can get away from this without talking about the finale.
Oh man. Ooh.
So
Do we
they
want to
brought,
spoil it for people?
I mean, isn't that kind of what we do?
This is kind of what we do.
Kind of what we
So
do.
the finale, they get you go ahead, Jaron. You go. You
Well,
do
I'm going to set it up, and I want you to jump in. Okay.
and it's
First of
4,
all,
5, 6, 7,
they
8.
they pull a bad guy from the Next Generation that is arguably the most benign bad guy that they encounter with a
Absolutely
Galaxy
work.
class starship, right? But we're not dealing with a Galaxy class starship. We're dealing with the Constitution was exploratory. I don't even know what it is.
They are they do second contact. They are the
Yeah,
guys that follow up. They do
they
paperwork.
follow up. The ship design, not overly attractive, but very appropriate for the show.
Yeah.
But so it starts with them running into literally a bad guy that the Enterprise like flicks off of its shoulder in the Next Generation, and unfortunately, they've grown a bit, and
Yes.
they present a deadly threat. So
So so Rutherford had already created a helping program in the holodeck
Badgie,
called Badgie, who ends up
voiced by, oh, you don't know the
Patton
name?
Oswalt. Patton
No, no,
Oswalt.
no, no. He's the guy from he's the Page, the NBC Page from 30 Rock.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. I don't know the actor's name off
Yeah,
the top of my head.
yeah, I don't either. He was also in Forgetting Sarah Marshall. He was like a Mormon who couldn't figure out how to have sex on his honeymoon.
So Badgie in a previous episode was made by Rutherford to be helpful for new recruits on the Cerritos, but Badgie goes homicidally insane and tries to murder his father Rutherford. So at the end, Rutherford realizes that Badgie could help stop this threat, and he needs to get onto the opposing ship to upload Badgie, who at the very last moment once again becomes homicidally insane. And poor Chief Security Officer Shax
Shaq.
sacrifices his life for Rutherford to get back to the Cerritos safely, and is destroyed along with the bad guy ship, and thankfully Badgie as well. Especially when there was one of the a robot thing that could have done it on its own, but decided to leave.
It pieced right the fuck out. It's like, nah, I'm gonna catch y'all
Could have
later.
done it. It's like one of another you know
TNG callback.
TNG reference with this little mechanical droid that decided to be in Starfleet, and they could have easily gone over there and helped out, but decided to peace out and drift endlessly in space rather than help out the crew. But poor Shax,
You'll probably see him again.
yeah, poor Shax, in a turn of fate that I did not see, died in this episode, and he's been this kind of burly, very combat oriented Bajoran, which makes sense.
Which is great.
Yeah,
That's another thing too. Bajorans, as we know them in Trek, and if you're Trek fans, you'll follow this, and if you're not, I apologize in advance. But we're introduced to the Bajorans in Next Generation, and they are freedom fighters. They're equivalent to the Irish IRA or
fact,
something of that nature.
one of the TNG episodes gets taken off of air because they make reference to the IRA and the liberation of Northern Ireland from British rule in that episode where they introduced the Bajorans.
Yes, which gotta love them. They get a lot more time in the light in DS9, where the central story of the entire show kind of centers around Bajor and the prophets, which is their spiritual guidance and all that. But what you see though in that show, you see some strong Bajorans, but you also see a people that are kind of broken. They've been beaten down by war and occupation, and they are sometimes they're depicted as a bit malnourished, and they're not Klingons.
They're not a robust people.
Right. And so you have this Shax show up, and he's the chief security officer of this show, and he is just a jacked Bajoran, nose wrinkle, ear joint, the whole 9 yards, and he's just like always ready to kill. And and he's not afraid to get in there and mix it up himself. And he is just this great character. And yes, but that, unfortunately, after that massive sacrifice, does not stop the threat.
Yeah.
And 2 more of those ships show up, and then we have
finally the best reference.
Huge.
The USS Titan showing up with Commander Riker and Deanna Troi, who easily handled this threat.
Yeah. Oh, just don't even try very hard.
Yeah.
We're making jokes.
And it was actually voiced by Jonathan Frakes and Marina Sirtis in that episode as well. I believe he actually has Jonathan Frakes has directed a couple episodes of where he always directs a few episodes of every Trek show that ever is. He's even directed a movie, so he's integral to the Star Trek universe at this point. But he makes a great cameo. His warp signature, his go to warp is great. Warp in the factor of 5, 6, 7, 8, and then they beam off.
Always been a big Jazz fan.
Yeah, it is a great into that first season. Hopefully, I mean, there's going to be another season. We know that.
Takes a swipe at my dear Enterprise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Enterprise was not a very well handled show. Let's say that.
Enterprise needed the musical beginning that this show has. Lower Decks, by the way, has a beautiful orchestral beginning and something that creates the flow that they take into different keys during the show to pull at some heartstrings or to make it more exciting. They had somebody put together a beautiful arrangement that
really terrible shit.
It is better than the show deserves.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like this. It's this show
With it.
about this, like scrappy little crew, but they get a proper next gen DS9 Voyager like operatic opening, and it's absolutely stunning, fantastic.
So, Jaron, I mean, I think people can obviously see what our opinions on the show is, but would you recommend this show to people?
Little bit, yeah. If for some reason you're watching this and you're like, you know what, these two, I don't know about cartoons. Go watch Orville. It's live action and it's in the same vein, but a little more dramatic. This is a little bit more humorous, but still has heart. Um, and if you have no hangups about cartoons at all, then I highly recommend. I mean, you should already be watching it. So
Yeah.
yeah, and if
Especially
you
if you're go ahead.
Oh, yeah. If you're not gonna shell out for Disney Plus or Paramount Plus or whatever, then just hit up Target, man. You're good.
Yeah, you should definitely watch the show, especially if you are a Trek fan. You should be watching this. I'm not going to gatekeep to say it's quintessential Trek fan watching, but it's pretty high up there. You should probably, if you say you love Trek as much as anybody, then you should probably watch this show. So
This is where
that's
we'll
just
disagree. Better than Discovery.
it's. Mm, yes, I'll agree with you on that.
We're agreeing. Oh, brilliant! I thought we were
I'll
going to
agree
disagree.
with you on that.
All right, all right,
See,
all right,
the
all right.
thing I like about Discovery is the crew. It's not so much the show itself.
Gotcha, gotcha. I like the
So,
art direction and the sets and the lighting. That's all I like about Discovery.
and the lighting, and the
All
fact
I,
that it comes and it ends eventually. That the show does have credits at the end of it.
it does, yes, yes. Even
But
that beginning, I think, is tragic. I think that beginning is right up there with Enterprise as far as
we
just like,
can do another episode where we go in on Discovery. So
all
we'll
right,
put that on the docket.
love it.
So we had a movie that released this weekend. I think
It may have
yes,
been 2 weeks ago now.
it may have been 2 weeks, maybe this weekend, 2 weeks ago, whatever. But it is Cruella
Mhm.
from Disney. Yes, Disney has done another villain-centric movie with starring Cruella Deville from 101 Dalmatians. Jared, you watched this whole entire thing. I only watched 30 minutes of this. What have you what thoughts do you have on this movie?
Couple things. Really like Emma Stone, and she doesn't disappoint in this. She vacillates between complete sanity and multiple personality disorder flawlessly. Does a great job of it. Her supporting cast is good. Horace and the other guy, phenomenal. Um, it doesn't. The movie doesn't end where we remember her being picked up. It's very disjointed. The I guess Disney thought the only way we're going to make her likable is if there is somebody else that's substantially worse than her, and that happens, I guess. But I mean, nothing about like everything about the movie makes you want to go, oh, she's not a bad person. But you know the character is going to try to skin puppies in a future
Or
anime outing. Yeah. So I don't know. Did I enjoy the time I sat in the theater with my mask on and watched it? Yes. Will I ever buy it and add it to my Blu-ray or 4K collection? No. Will I ever watch it again when it comes on Disney Plus for free? Maybe if somebody else hasn't seen it and really wants to, I'll sit through it again. That Yeah, I'm
so
not seeking that out on a Sunday afternoon.
the reason why I only watched 30 minutes of it was because I was
All
trying
of yourself.
to be naughty and watch it for free in various ways. And I'm sorry, Disney, please forgive me. I'm just broke at the moment. I will buy more things of yours. I do actually own Disney Plus, so I do actually pay you money.
If you know anything about Disney, is they're totally fine with that.
Yeah, they're totally fine
Not
with that.
litigious at all.
So for me, like I'm watching 30 minutes of it and then it cuts out and I have no desire to watch anymore. And I'm sure if I watched the whole thing through, I probably would have enjoyed it. But it's a movie about a lady who wanted to skin dogs for a coat. And I don't need to be told that she's an anti-hero or she is I don't need that backstory. And before someone says I'm sexist, I don't need the Joker backstory either. I mean,
That
I
movie was
enjoyed
garbage.
Joker as a movie, completely unnecessary.
Nope.
Completely, I do not need to feel anything for the Joker. I do not need to feel anything for Maleficent. I do not need to feel anything for Cruella de Vil. All right, her backstory does not matter to me whatsoever. You know, next thing you know, you're going to run out of Disney villains, and then they're going to be putting, oh, let's do a relatable thing for Hitler or Pol Pot or somebody, and it's like, no, you don't need to do it. All right, like
Oh shit. Oh no. Oh
I'm
yes.
sorry, but not everybody needs to be deconstructed and to make into a understandable into a relatable character. Like
Jason,
Cruella Deville
Jason.
was,
They do if you are out of ideas and you need to make money on properties you already own. Obviously.
or better yet, hire people with ideas and have them do movies. How about that?
So
Or
those
unless,
cost money.
yeah, you have all the money, Disney, Marvel, whoever you are, you
But they
can
want it. They want
waste some. All right, get it, put it back in the atmosphere, into the ecosphere or whatever. I
it.
don't. I don't need this movie. I don't, and I'm sure there's people who are out there who disagree with me, and that is 100% okay.
Comment below if you disagree.
Yeah, comment below if you
Comment below if you
disagree.
agree.
But for me, there is no need for a backstory of a lady who wants to skin puppies. Not even dogs, puppies. All right.
Yeah.
So I will probably not watch this movie or finish this movie unless it is like playing in someone else's house and I just sit there and I'm too drunk to move or something.
We'll
So
set it up.
that,
We'll set it up.
yeah. So that is my humble opinion. Even though I only watched 30 minutes, hey, I get it. I'm sure the rest of it is really, really good. That's fine. It could be. I love Emma Stone. I love the other people who are not Emma Stone in that movie.
The other
It's
place to ask her has been in other things. I feel like he's British. Black dude, British. He's I've seen him in a lot of things. Every time I see him, he's good.
also like you couldn't find someone who was actually British to be in this movie other than Emma Stone. Like, really,
Oh
guys?
no, they needed the star power because
No, I guess it wouldn't work any other way unless you have someone really lovable like Emma Stone. But
right.
hey, Emma Stone, keep doing the work, keep doing good work. This was not it for me.
Yeah. Hey man, she brought us Easy A. That was one of my favorite
That's
movies.
one of my favorite movies too, man. Super bad. She's in that one. Love
Yes.
it.
Yes. Yes.
She played an Asian person in Aloha. That was probably a bad move on her part. But you know what? I'm not mad because I'm not Asian. No,
She got
don't.
killed because Andrew Garfield doesn't know how to be Spider-Man.
Yeah, that's. I'm still really sad about that. But you got
Man,
to make way for Mary Jane somehow. Yes,
that was comic book legit though. That snap.
yeah.
I remember that. I remember,
Spider-Man killed Gwen Stacy. That's what
yeah,
happened.
yeah.
I
Well,
I didn't need this movie. I don't want
yeah,
to continue with this movie anymore. So let's move on.
yeah. Well, I think the last thing we're talking about is something you
Conjuring.
haven't seen either. All
Well,
right,
we still can have a discussion about this
let's
because
have a
we
discussion
talked
about
about
it.
this. But
Yeah,
go ahead and give us your review of The Conjuring 3, I believe.
yeah. The Conjuring was fun. If you have what is it, HBO? It's free or Netflix. It's Netflix. It's free. I highly recommend for that alone because it is a competent movie. There's only there's like two things as a visual effects artist that really irked me, but other than that, it's fantastic. And most people won't notice it. The things that bothered me. The guy and the girl that kind of like are the through thread through the Conjurings.
The
Um,
Warren, the
one's the psychic,
Warren.
the Warrens, yes, the
Yeah,
Warrens.
I know
Um,
that.
hey, The Warrens, I mean, they're exactly. They've got this down to a T at this point. They're very good at what they do. Um, uh, it's got some good beats in it. The bad guy's decent, and it's always fun. This is me and Jason were talking about this earlier. Jason, you prefer a little more blood,
I
a little
prefer
more
slasher
gore,
movies
a little slasher movies,
to
ghost stories,
supernatural stuff. Yes,
and I love,
I
love, love, love ghost stories, specifically ghost stories, not
yeah.
necessarily supernatural. I'm not lining up to see a chupacabra movie, but I'm 100% down for
I don't.
Sam Jackson and what's his face doing 1409.
Oh,
Like
that was a good one. I enjoy that one.
you, that was a ghost movie.
Yeah, it was a haunted room movie.
Yeah,
It wasn't really a
ghost.
ghost per se. There were not
Also,
ghosts.
he thought he had fixed the angry spirit, and in the end,
He
nope,
didn't. He died. He died.
nope,
I just
yes,
don't fuck with no ghosts. That's what it is. I don't fuck with no ghosts. It's
without a
because
proton pack.
of my cultural heritage. Black people don't fucks with ghosts. All right, we don't. You notice how there's only white people in these movies, in these ghost movies. Because as soon as you said there was a ghost, you'd be like, "No, we're not going to deal with that.
No,
We're gonna go."
no.
That's on y'all. All right, y'all have fun figuring out what those ghosts are doing. We ain't gonna be there. Goodbye. Don't
Oh,
call us back. All right?
I mean, we were just watching what is it? That Army of the Dead, and the black guy was the survivor.
Yeah, but
I
that's not
mean,
ghosts. That's different.
oh,
Zombies are different.
are they?
Yes, they're not ghosts. We don't fucks with no ghosts. All right, you can be spitting on the floor and circling your house with rock salt and burning sage. We don't fucks with no ghosts. All right.
Listen, I want to introduce you to a friend of mine. His name is Winston Zeddemore, and he's here about a job. That motherfucker fucking does.
Even
He's
him.
seen some shit that'll turn you white.
Only reason he was there was like, is there a paycheck involved? All right, then I'm in.
Don't believe anything you said.
Like, I'll believe in anything you say as long as there's a paycheck, a steady paycheck involved. Look,
Yes.
he's the first dude because he was broke, man. He had to get his what he had to do, all right? And they were hiring. All right.
Right.
If Ghost Hunters is hiring for $90K a year,
Mhm.
I might fuck some ghosts.
Okay. Oh, so not for free.
Yeah, I'm not doing it for free. If my house is haunted,
Right.
it's always funny, especially in like these movies. There's always like the waitress and her kids inherit a house in the middle of nowhere
Right.
that their great uncle left to them. And they're just like, let's go live in that house. And it's like, I can't afford the property tax on that house. Even they gave it to you, you can't afford that shit. You're gonna go live in it, and then like weird shit's gonna happen, and you're just gonna be like, it's just weird. It's just an old house. I'm just gonna keep doing it. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, if I see, like, even in my tiny little house right now, if I see one weird thing out the corner of my eye, I'm moving the fuck out. All right,
Just like that.
just
Not,
like that. I'm not.
not in this economy. You're not.
Like, hell, I'm getting the hell out of here. Like, the only thing that I watched that was ghost related that I really loved was The Haunting on Netflix. Haunting of Hill House on Netflix.
Jesus.
Yeah,
All
and
right.
that scared the shit out of me, and I still have nightmares about it because that dealt with nothing but ghosts.
Right. So did you like The Grudge?
No, I didn't like The Grudge. I didn't like especially. Oh, definitely don't do no Japanese ghosts. No, fuck that shit. No Grudge, no
Those are
Ring,
the
none of
best.
that.
Yes.
No, no,
Yes.
those things are fucking the little boy.
Terrifying.
No, fuck him.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
and the thing is, the Grudge they follow you around no matter where you go.
Yo,
No,
in daylight on the
mm-mm,
bus. What?
mm-mm.
No.
First thing I'm going to go to is a well lit convent or something like not one of these dark ones they always have in movies. I'm going to one
Yeah.
with plenty of nuns, a father. Like, I'm not even Catholic. I'm just going to go straight there
Right.
and be like, yo, I got these ghosts. I know y'all know what y'all doing.
Yeah. Because if you don't help me, I'm chilling here regardless. So
Yeah, and that shit's gonna
now it's
come
your problem.
to y'all, and y'all deal with this shit. So please go ahead and figure this shit out.
We're all gonna die weird together, or yeah.
Yeah, I don't fucks with no ghosts. Like I can tell you ghost stories. My mom used to tell us. She'd tell us ghost stories that of ghosts that she's seen in real life, and I'll tell you, I've seen ghosts in real life. So I don't. Nope, don't fuck with ghosts. I don't want to deal with
Yeah.
them.
Well, Ghostbuster quote. My grandma used to spin yards about a spectral locomotive that would rocket past the farm that she grew up in.
Look, I really wish the Ghostbusters were like a real thing. Like, I think that would be awesome. But then I'll also be like, oh man, that means ghosts are real. Then I'll be like, no, that's not awesome. But at least
Well,
there's some dudes.
if you believe in an afterlife, there has to be a certain amount of spirituality that you concede to, right?
Well, I don't necessarily believe in afterlife, but I
Yeah,
also
me
don't
either. Not really.
necessarily believe that we know 100% of what happens to our energy as it dissipates through the universe.
Agreed, because energy cannot be destroyed; it can only be
Yeah,
transferred.
so there might be, or maybe we're gonna get into this fucking weird ass conversation, or what we see as ghosts might be some, you know, another universe that we're seeing, getting a glimpse of, or it could be a different timeline that we're getting a glimpse of, or a whole bunch of things, or it could be the a
That'd be
part, an
interesting.
echo of a spirit of energy that's left behind. I don't know.
That would actually be
Um,
interesting. That idea of a temporal fracture, because that would make sense. Because people never see ghosts from the '90s where they're like, "I'm Britney, bitch," you know.
yeah,
They're always like fucking turn of the century
yeah,
motherfuckers.
it's always like some 18th century like really old ghost, like
Right. Right. So yeah, is there maybe there's like a temporal fracture point back in the past? Something got weird.
yeah. I just don't like the idea that like after I die, I'm just gonna sit here and be like, "Boo, I got you."
I think you only stay a ghost. But isn't the idea that you only stay a ghost if you feel like you have works undone and
Or
you
something like that, or
you
maybe like
walk
you
away?
died,
Yeah, you're just
horribly.
angry. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
what they say, but
I mean, who fucking
there's
knows?
no empirical evidence of any of it.
There's not.
But I feel like if you are going to die and if you have a spirit, the last thing you want to do is hang around here and be like, and jump out and scare me and shit. Like
Go
I
check
would
out
be
all the
like,
toilets in their bedroom.
yeah, I'm gonna stack all the chairs and open all the cabinets just to be a
Yeah,
nuisance.
yeah, yeah.
So
So there is no afterlife, and when we die, we're all dead.
yeah, it's over. It's nothing.
Speaking of things being over, we're at an hour and 22 minutes.
Yes. So thank you guys for joining us once again as me and Jaron and No Jason talk about inane crazy stuff that we like. Uh please, if you like what we're doing, as we said, share, like, follow, subscribe, whatever it's saying on the bottom of this thing that I can read. We're at Headcanon Circus. I'm on Twitter at Rise Novemberus. You can tweet at me. Um, yeah, do those things. Please interact with us. We would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah,
Uh,
if you agree
and
with us
or agree with us.
or
Uh, or disagree, or be completely mad about it. It's all right. Just interact. Maybe next week. I know that I did a hot take on Facebook about a particular character on from Harry Potter, and I know I got some flack for that. Maybe we'll talk about that next week. I don't know. We don't know what's going on.
you
This
want
is
to do
live.
a recap on that?
I said something about Mr. Severus Snape.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, I
and
read that.
yeah,
Oh, yeah. Oh,
so thank you guys so very much. Maybe we'll get into it next week. Thank you guys so very much for joining us. I've been Jason. Jaron, you got any last words?
nope. I've been
That's
Jaron.
it. That's your last words. Please, y'all, be kind to each other, tip your servers, and just be good. Peace.
Bye.